What's going on, family? Have you ever had a breakup? Perhaps, you sadly had to get a divorce, scripturally, or maybe something happened in your past before you found the truth. Have you ever had to break up with somebody? Did they break up with you? Are you wondering, all right, well, how do I get over them? You know what, Ryan? That's funny that I seen this video because even though we broke up, a couple years ago, a couple months ago, I'm still not over them. So hopefully this video will push you over the edge and help you to see how you can successfully get over somebody after a breakup. How do you move on? And whatever verbiage you like to use, the reality is still the same. Because when you're focused on, okay, well, I don't have that person in my life anymore. And perhaps, they're doing something crazy, or perhaps things ended on good terms and you broke up because you just didn't see eye to eye, or you had an outrageous divorce and now they're living some crazy life and they did all these things to you and you were innocent and they were guilty, and whatever the case may be, whether things ended happily and it was an equal thing, but you still kind of feel a little bit lonely and you miss them in your life, or you just said, hey, we're just not right for each other. Let's just go separate ways. Or they wanted kids, you didn't want kids, that's reasonable. Or perhaps, they did something outrageous. They had an affair, something major. Whatever the case may be, if you're feeling a little something inside of your heart and you're like, I know I can't be with them. I know we got a divorce. I know we already broke up, but I miss having them in my life. Maybe just it's not them, but you miss having a body in your life. You miss having a woman to sleep with if you were, married. Or you miss having a hand to hold. You miss having a companionship. Maybe you miss certain features. Maybe it's not actually them, but you just miss that kind of relationship that you have with them. So here's some of the things that you could do. So one of the first things is focus on what you learned in your previous relationship. Maybe you were never meant to be. So many people like to say, oh no, we were meant to be, but they wanted kids, you didn't. They had an affair. Maybe you did. Maybe you messed up. Perhaps you weren't really meant to be. And that's fine. And you literally gave it all you're all. You did everything you can to try to make it work, and it just crumbled. It just didn't work. Or perhaps you didn't, and it's already too late. They've already moved on. They're with somebody else, or they moved across the world, or they said, I'll never be with you again. But one of the biggest things that you can do is focus on how perhaps that happened for you. Perhaps there were some lessons that you can draw from that. Because any failure, and if that's what you want to call it, your relationship was a failure, you failed in this relationship, your marriage was a failure, it all encompasses lessons. So whether you messed up or your spouse messed up, I would initially always start with me. Start with you. Start what happened in the previous relationship that could have gone better. What could you have done differently? And I noticed that's a tough thing to do. That takes a lot of humility. But if you can focus on what you could have done better, perhaps they had an affair and you were innocent. But normally somebody doesn't have an affair for no reason. If you did get married, they loved you for some reason. Perhaps if you're the man and your wife had an affair, if you're the woman and your husband had an affair, maybe you just weren't present with them. Maybe you weren't giving them the attention and the love that they deserved. Maybe you weren't the spouse that you were supposed to be in order for them to feel loved. Because normally it doesn't just happen overnight. Over time, they eventually, hey, my wife, my husband, they're never there for me. And they never give me the attention. They never, hold me physically. And eventually someone else will grab their shoulder and kind of be your replacement. And they'll slip into their life. And little by little, things grow. And eventually, they have an affair. So what could you have done differently? And I know this is tough. If this is your situation, I understand. It's difficult. But the first thing you want to do whenever you make a mistake or something doesn't turn out the way you expected it, Focus on what you could have done better. Could you have been more present? Could you have been more loving? Could you have given them more attention? Could you have been a better spouse? So that way when you have a new marriage, a new relationship, if that's an opportunity for you, you can take the lessons that you learned and show up in your new marriage. You can be more present. You can give them the attention. You can give them the love. Whatever you didn't do in your previous marriage that perhaps, made it not work, now you can figure out what you can do to make it work in the new marriage, right? Stop pointing fingers. That whole pointing fingers, well, they were this and they were jealous and I didn't our marriage didn't work out, strokes because of them. Because of them, you're right. Maybe it was them. Maybe they were super corrupt. Maybe they were really out to get you. They were a bad person. You were dating them, you married them, and you never should have married them. They deceived you, they played a front, whatever the case may be. But start with you because you can't change that person. Whatever they did, you can't change that. But you know who you can change? You can start with yourself and you can change yourself. You can change your attitude. So one of the biggest things is, what can you learn from your previous relationship? Whether that was, just a one-on-one, you broke it up before you got married, while you were dating, while you were courting, or this was actually after you got married. What can you learn from that? What can you learn from that? And if you have the opportunity to get remarried or get into another relationship, what can you learn from that and then bring and take to your new relationship that perhaps you didn't bring in your old one, right? And then one of the other biggest things, family, is to stop focusing on the future. Stop living in the past. Look, family, I understand. Look, my mother, she was married to my father. They got a divorce. Something crazy happened. Same thing with my dad. He moved on. He got somebody else. They were replaced. And then she got somebody else. But you know what my mother didn't do? She didn't drive looking in the rearview mirror. Because if you do that, you'll end up crashing. And if you're depressed because you're lonely or you miss that person, you want that person in your life. Not to say, ooh, I'm replacing them, but you're replacing that emotion that they filled in your heart. We all have the same 6 human needs. And if one of those needs are love and connection, more cases than not, you were getting that love and connection from your spouse at one point. And if you're lonely now and I just can't seem to get over them, well, perhaps you need to get something to replace that need. If you don't like the words of replacing them, then just say replace that need. Or you could replace them, whatever verbiage you like better. But you need to replace that emotion. Clearly, you miss them or you miss that. Maybe it's not necessarily them. Maybe it's necessarily just the need that they fulfilled for you at one point in time. They were disrespectful and all this stuff. I hated them. We didn't work out. Or we broke up because we seen, they wanted kids. I didn't. Something like that. And you had to call it off. And you're depressed. You're upset. You miss them. You're lonely. That's normally the biggest thing. I'm lonely. I don't know what to do. Replace that need that they filled. That love and connection. If you can't find love right away, go get a dog. Don't get a cat. They're too independent. A dog will rely on you a lot more. Go get a pet. Go get a dog to, replace that need. It'd be nice, someone to care for, someone to love, someone that loves you back. Dogs are the best pet in the world because you can have them. You'll be home. You'll leave. You'll come back 5 minutes later. Then running up to the door like you've been gone for 6 months. A cat doesn't care, so definitely get a dog. And then one of the other things, if perhaps that's not an option for you, focus on replacing that need with a friend. Could you build a better relationship with somebody in your family? Could you build a better relationship with one of your guy friends, one of your girlfriends? The 2 words. Could you build a better relationship with them? Maybe they could fill that need. And don't try to put them in a place where they're replacing your ex-spouse. It's just that, or your ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend or whatever, but you're hanging out with them, you're going out to eat, you're talking on the phone, you're happy. But one of the worst things that you can do is continually speaking about your ex-spouse. Continually speaking about your ex. Don't bring up your ex in every conversation with your family. Don't bring up your ex in every conversation with your friends. Definitely, 100%, don't bring up your ex and your new relationship with your new girlfriend, your new boyfriend, your new marriage, future marriage mate. Do not. Not that you forget about them, but there's no way, shape, or form, and no need whatsoever would you ever have to bring them up. And just focus on the future. You know, whatever happened before, your past does not equal your future. Continue moving forward. Every day is a new step. Focus on what's right. My wife just made a phenomenal video. I don't know if it's posted yet, but what's wrong is always available, but so is what's right. You can focus on what's going wrong in your life, or you can focus on what's going right. Everything that you go through in life, the way you react is all based upon the meaning that you attach to it. So you can say, my marriage didn't work out, my relationships never work out, so that means I'm a failure and I can never get married. Or you can attach a different meaning and say, hey, I just haven't found the right person for me yet, and Jehovah hasn't gifted that person in my life yet. Change it to an empowering meaning. Keep your moods and energy going. Stay focused on the road ahead. Hopefully, family, you guys got a lot of value from this. I really would love to know, what was your biggest takeaway? Are you committed to focusing on the future and the days ahead and the lessons that you learned from what didn't work in previous relationships? Hopefully, friends, this will help you to get over the emotions and the person that, you know, perhaps you're still attached to.
So I just wanted to say, you know, I know that my husband was talking about if you had a breakup, if you had a relationship that was broken up, or you were married and you had a divorce. I just feel like we need to stop focusing on, oh my gosh, this is what they did to my, like, this is what they did in my life. This is what my husband did. This is what my wife did. You know, there's always three sides to every story. It's his side, her side, and Jehovah's side. He knows everything that happened. And normally, to protect ourselves, we tend to make stories in our head of illusions of what happened and how bad it was and how bad they were. And we need to stop blaming everyone else for what happened. You take responsibility for what happened, and they take responsibility for what happened. You know, like, it was not just one person, it was two people. You know, it takes two to tango. Like, it's two people that made it happen. If you guys were able to break up in a nice way, then that's fine. But if it was a rough breakup and you have kids, you need to take your responsibility and say, you know what, this, you know, I did this and I know that's why it happened, and they did that. They're gonna have to take responsibility for what they did. But stop blaming anybody. It doesn't do you any good. What, it makes you feel good for 1 second, like 1 minute? Yeah, it's their fault, it's their fault. It's just gonna make you feel good for that 1 minute. And you need to just start growing. Like, you don't need a person to be by your side to feel loved and connected, like my husband said. Some of us feel the need to have that person. You have to be loved and connected with yourself. You have to love and be connected with yourself, and hopefully you get to share that with someone. But if you don't, you should be okay. Like, you shouldn't have to rely for somebody else to make you feel that way. Like I said before, you have to love yourself first. You have to start with yourself, and then you can share that with someone else, hopefully. Maybe in the new world, who knows? But you need to stop focusing on what they're doing in their life now. Oh, they have another person already, they moved on. Because if you're still living in that place, you're never gonna move on. You need to just stop and move on and grow, love, and feel connected with yourself. So family, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, my husband part and my part. I hope you get to share this with someone else that you think that needs to hear it. Please comment below, like, if you like what we're doing, if you think this is of value, anything that we can improve. We love you guys. Please, thank you for watching. Love you guys.